think you just made the most progress over the course of spring? I don't know if we'll talk to you.
The most progress. Well, I'd like to think that every player sort of progressed throughout spring. That's ultimately the goal. I think there's a comfort level, in spinning maybe some different calls that we haven't done as much in the past, and so that's good. I'm just trying to put them. They're getting comfortable in being in uncomfortable situations. A lot in the past, I feel like I've tried to give them very comfortable calls when it's chaotic situations, just so they can, ground themselves. And I've just tried this spring. I feel like we've got enough, veteran players to try to put them in a little bit more of an uncomfortable state, because I think that's more realistic to what actually happens in a season. And they've done well, and I think it's going to pay off for us. It'll help us, in those situations.
We saw Oxen down when he was 300 plus, and at this particular point, how far, how close has he been to what he was when he was in, or where you think he needs, where he needs to be effective like he was?
Yeah, so you saw him up, when he first got here. And then last year he was way down and too low, and now we're starting to approach sort of that happy medium, and that's the goal. I think we can, and he'd agree that we could still probably push it a few more pounds, to the north, but I think he's far more effective, with a little bit more weight, in that sense. It's big and it's tough and it's rugged in there. I think it's going to allow him to. One, be more stout. Two, be able to sort of, his body will be able to hold up, more, and he knows that, and he's in a good place right now. I've been pleased with the progression that he's made, sort of since last fall.
Right, when you get into the season, I know you talk about, because you're doing game prep and so forth, there's not as much time to work on tackling, just fundamentals of tackling. How much do you work on that in the spring, and what can you do to make sure there's a carryover into the fall?
Well, the one you talk about tackling, that's something we do every day, even in the fall, because it's just such a vital part. We actually had a big meeting on it as a defense yesterday, and a big presentation, and that's something that. Unless there's an incomplete pass, or somebody goes out of bounds, like, you're going to have to tackle on every single down. So from a tackling perspective, that's an emphasis. Obviously in spring, maybe even a little bit more physical in that sense, because your bodies aren't having to worry about getting ready for Saturday. But no, that's always an emphasis here and always will be. We got to play with great effort. We got to be a great tackling team. No matter what the X's and O's say, if you can be great in those two areas, you're going to be a good defense. And so that's always an emphasis point.
So how do you feel about how they've done in that area?
We've really only had one, obviously the one live scrimmage. I thought for the most part in that scrimmage, I thought we tackled pretty well. We talk about bowl games and first games are always the ones you worry about, right? Because you don't get that full game speed action a ton. But I think they're approaching the drill work correctly, and they're going about it with the right. There's an intentionality in terms of how they're approaching each tackle circuit that we do on a daily basis. I think they're doing a decent job of finishing during team drills, to the hips, getting themselves in body position. And our coaches do a great job of pointing out, even in a non-tackle drill, if they're not in the right position, we're going to let them know and say, hey, listen, that would have been a missed tackle because you didn't sink your hips, because you didn't take proper leverage, and all those things need to be coached, on every play.
I think you have 3 redshirt guys in that linebacker group with Tomiwa and Fierbury and Matthews.
Tommy's up front. He's in the D-line.
Just wondering about the progress with those guys having a year under their belt. Usually kind of that's when some guys start to emerge and take a step forward.
Yeah, It was funny. I was just talking with somebody today. Sometimes you take for granted when you have bigger players, guys like Fearbry and Matthews and Keaton Wade, and you forget they haven't even been on campus for a full year. Like you at times, I think, myself especially, like I expect them to make plays and set edges and do things that veteran outside linemen, like I treat them as veterans, and then you're like, man, they haven't even been here for 12 months. Like they'll be so much better even in fall camp. But they are progressing, and they're going to have to help us this fall. You know, Tommy, you know, from a D-line perspective, he came in mid-year last year, so he has 6 months sort of on those guys. So you can see he's another guy, he's put on the weight, his twitch and his physicality down there is going to help us. You know, he's going to give us some twitch and internally too, you know, from a interior pass rush on third downs. So, no, pleased with where those guys are at. Obviously not where we need to be or want to be, and where they'll finish up their careers. But from a progression, they are right on track.
Brad, you talked about comfort level at the beginning. I know that's a word you used earlier this spring with Zion. How have you seen him progress and sort of grow that comfort so far this spring?
Yeah, he's through the roof in terms of confidence, and it stems from how he approaches the game. If you walk in every single meeting, he's the one, the pen's always in his hand. Like, he's looking for any little nugget that any coach says. And if there's something that sort of sparks or inspires, like he's writing it down. Like those are the guys that they can't get enough. They last in football a long time. And so, no, he's doing a great job. You know, that from a leadership standpoint, I think he's got a comfort level that he's been here and in the system. You find that with transfers a lot. Like, you have to get, no matter how much experience you have at your previous school, you walk into a new building, you're not just going to be the voice. Like, you have to earn that. You have to build trust, and everybody in that locker room trusts him. Offense, defense, special teams, it does coaches. Like, everybody trusts him, and so when he speaks, people listen. So pleased with where he is right now.
Brad, what can Jalen bring to that position group when he's back 100%, even after Zion and Jordan emerged?
Oh, I mean, when we talk about having 3 starters back there. I mean, you've got 3 starting safeties. Like that's such a luxury these days, and we're excited to get him right back in the mix. And you know, you've got 2 guys, especially from a Jalen and a Zion, that can really play either. They're interchangeable. Jordan pretty much, you know, free safety to the boundary. You know, there's just a comfort level there for him, but the other 2 can switch. And so you can have so many different variations, packages, mixes of those guys. You can get all 3 on the field together, you know. No different than we talk about inside linebacker play. You talk about anything down the middle, right? D-line, inside linebacker, safety. In this league, those guys take a lot of wear and tear. They're big linemen, they're big tight ends, they're big backs. It's a lot of it's a lot of wear and tear. And if you're asking one position to just stay in for every snap of the game, those guys are going to wear out. And so there's plenty of snaps to go around, and so we're going to be able to keep each of those guys fresh, and so they can play fast, they can all play physical. No, that's going to be a position group that I lean on heavily because of the experience, because of their play style, because of the mentality, all 3 of them. Just really, really excited to get Jalen back.
Very good.